The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian stocks stutter on Thursday as investors weigh geopolitical, economic, and fiscal uncertainties. This as they brace for U.S. President Donald Trump's deadline on tariffs. Financial markets remain on edge over Trump's chaotic trade policies as the clock ticks down to his July 9 deadline for trade deals. Markets, meanwhile, have been soothed by a ceasefire between Israel and Iran that appears to be holding. This reduces the risks of disruption to the global oil trade. A mixed movement dominates the Asian markets, with Japan's Nikkei 225 rising the most at more than 1%, while South Korea's Kospi falling the most at more than 1%. In the currency markets, the U.S. dollar fell against Asian currencies, while the Australian dollar appreciated against the greenback by 0.1%. This comes after Trump toyed with the idea of selecting and announcing Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's replacement by September or October. He has also repeatedly criticized Powell for not cutting interest rates. In commodities and crypto, gold prices rise by 0.2%. Meanwhile, oil markets are mixed, with West Texas Intermediate crude rising by 0.4% and Brent crude gaining 0.3%. However, Dubai crude is flat with a downward bias. In the currency or cryptocurrency space, Bitcoin is down by 0.1%, while Ethereum up more than 1%. U.S. President Donald Trump warns Iran and Israel could start fighting again. Speaking to reporters at The Hague on the sidelines of the NATO summit, Trump said he will meet with Iranian officials next week. However, he did not identify who in particular he will meet.
And they're both tired, exhausted. They fought very, very hard and very viciously, very violently, and they were both satisfied to go home and get out. And can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon. You know, Iran has a huge advantage. They have great oil, and they can do things. I don't see them getting back involved in the nuclear business anymore. I think they've had it. They've been at it for 20 years, and I don't see that happening either. Now, if it does, we're always there. It won't be me. It'll be somebody else, but we're there. We'll have to do something about it.
Meanwhile, NATO leaders expressed support for the spike in defense spending, which was demanded by Trump. This as Russia remains a security threat following its 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Global crude prices have stabilized after plunging roughly $10 per barrel over the last 2 days. Benchmark U.S. crude is up 55 cents to $64.92 a barrel, but that's still well below pre-conflict levels nearly 2 weeks ago. Here at home, Jetty Petroleum President Leo Bellas expects a slight rollback in local pump prices next week, a potential breather for consumers and logistics costs. Senate President Cheese Escudero wants to give the Finance Department the power to suspend value-added tax on fuel as global oil prices rise once again. Here's Hanati with the details.
The ongoing conflict in the Middle East is pushing global oil prices up. That translates to costlier transport, goods and services in the country. Senate President Cheese Escudero is reviving a proposal to give the Finance Department a standby authority to cut the value-added tax on fuel whenever prices surge beyond expectations.
Pabor ako dyan noong paman. So, kailangan ng panukalang batas nga para magawa yun.
Escudero first proposed this under the train law, but it was dropped from the final version. He says the VAT system being percentage-based leads to unintended windfalls for government when crude oil prices jump from $40 to $100, leaving consumers to shoulder the impact. Escudero plans to file a bill that will not only revive the standby authority, but also set a clear price trigger for when it can be used. He adds that measures of oil price should be based on more accurate standards, like the means of Platts of Singapore.
Nasa ipa-file namin tiyak yung standby authority na nais namin ibigay sa DOF o sa presidente man na babaan yung value-added tax o i-fix yung excise tax para sa akin mas accurate yung MOPS.
Escudero clarifies the president has no power to suspend taxes, even in times of crisis. Only Congress can amend or suspend tax laws.
Walang kapangyarihan ng Pangulo magsuspende ng buwis.
But the president may temporarily adjust tariffs on fuel imports if needed, as long as Congress is in recess. On calls to repeal the oil deregulation law amid the Middle East crisis, Escudero says such proposals resurface when prices rise, but fade when they drop. That law allows oil companies to freely set prices based on world market rates without needing government approval. For now, he wants a flexible system that can quickly respond to global oil shocks without burdening the Filipino people. Hannah Tia, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Iran state media is suing Israel for attacking its headquarters during the 12-day war. The president of the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting condemns the attack and accuses Israel of violating freedom of the press and free speech. He adds that the world witnessed the incident as one of their news programs was on air when the attack happened. The peso climbs back to the 56 per dollar level as inflation fears ease amid the decline in global oil prices. This follows a fragile ceasefire between Iran and Israel, which both countries have violated, prompting U.S. President Donald Trump to publicly scold them. The local unit closed at 56.71 against the greenback yesterday, appreciating from Tuesday's close of 57.16. This is its best close in over a week or since it finished at 56.70 on June 17. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un attends the inauguration of a tourist zone at the country's east coast. The Wonsan Kalma coastal area can accommodate about 20,000 visitors. The tourist zone will open for domestic guests on July 1st. There's no mention yet if foreign tourists will be granted access. Tourism is one of the few cash sources for North Korea not targeted by UN sanctions. State media reports the reclusive state plans to build more tourist zones. We're taking a short break. More business stories are up next. You're watching This is Brief. 3 years after dozens of cockfight enthusiasts disappeared, the mastermind is close to facing justice. Joash Malimban is at the Department of Justice with the latest. Joash, what can you tell us?
Mai Justice Secretary Boying Remulla confirmed that a well-known and powerful individual is behind the disappearance of the missing Sabongeros. Remulla said he will meet with Supreme Court Chief Justice Alexander Gesmundo regarding the issue following revelations made by whistleblower alias Totoy. According to Remulla, Totoy disclosed that the suspect linked to the case has influence strong enough to reach the Supreme Court. Remulla added that he intends to inform the Chief Justice about the challenges facing the investigation and prosecution, including the possible involvement of a larger organization behind the operations. The case resurfaced after alias Totoy came forward. He was one of the 6 security personnel of the Manila Arena, previously charged with kidnapping and serious illegal detention in 2023. Totoy claimed that the bodies of the missing individuals, possibly up to 100, are buried under Taal Lake. The Department of Justice is now coordinating with the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard to plan search operations in the area. Remulla also said that they are in talks with the Japanese government to acquire technology needed for a technical dive in Taal Lake. Mai.
Port Joash Malimban. Chooks to Go and Bounty Fresh owner Tennyson Chen is reportedly eyeing a stake in the Bistro Group. The potential acquisition follows Bilyonaryo Andy Soriano's recent 1.6 billion peso investment for a minority stake in the Bistro Group. Although the online news site did not name names, sources tell Bilyonaryo.com that Chen's company is now gearing up to flex its muscles in the high-end dining scene. The firm's founding family is reportedly taking the lead on the deal. The Bistro Group operates over 200 outlets across 23 restaurant concepts, including international franchises such as TGI Fridays, Italianis, and Texas Roadhouse. Vietnam's Taco Auto, which makes buses and trucks, is entering the Philippine market. Let's get the details from Sujin Kim. Sujin, how is this Vietnam brand expanding here and why now?
Yes, Mai, Vietnam's leading commercial vehicle manufacturer, Taco Auto, is formally entering the Philippine market through a partnership with BJ Mercantile, in line with the Philippine government's ongoing drive to modernize public transportation. Taco's entry is expected to enhance the competitive landscape for buses and trucks in the Philippines, with a focus on logistics, coaches, and fleet replacements. According to the company, Vietnam's bus segment saw market share grow from 58% in 2024 to 73% in 2025, while its trucks segment grew from 28% to 33%, indicating strong performance and expertise that it now plans to leverage locally. The Philippines-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement is also playing a crucial role in the strategy, as the partnership will allow fully built units to be imported directly. While BJ Mercantile operates its own assembly facility, this arrangement maximizes cost efficiency under current trade rules. The company noted that sales of heavy trucks remain sluggish post-pandemic, while the bus segment has begun to recover, driven by fleeting demand from operators who paused purchases during 2020 to 2022. And despite interest in eventually shifting to electric commercial vehicles, BJ Mercantile stressed that lack of charging infrastructure in the Philippines remains a major barrier.
Because without the infrastructure, I think it is quite difficult for the operators to shift to electric, even as much as they want to. Building the charging stations and all of these things takes a lot of investment. For commercial vehicles, that's very difficult. Their battery capacity is much larger. Therefore, they would need a much bigger charging station.
The company called on government to implement clearer, firmer policies to support transport electrification and industry confidence, stressing that infrastructure investment is critical to enable full-scale deployment of EV buses and trucks. And those are latest updates from Quezon City. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you for that report, Sujin Kim. The Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center warns the public against a fake online video that falsely presents President Bongbong Marcos as promoting an online trading platform. The misleading content was posted by a Facebook page managed overseas. It includes a link directing users to an unrelated e-commerce website. The CICC added that the video used deepfake technology to manipulate the images. The agency urges the public to be discerning when it comes to online ads. The CICC is under the Department of Information and Communications Technology. A supply disruption at San Juanico Bridge could raise pork prices by 4 to 6 pesos per kilo. Truckers are now taking longer, costlier sea routes after the DPWH imposed a 3 metric ton limit on the bridge during repairs. Hog dealers say freight costs have jumped by 40 to 60,000 pesos per truck, as they now need 3 roll-on, roll-off trips instead of 2. The Agriculture Department may impose a new price cap on imported pork in July after lifting the last one in May. President Bongbong Marcos had warned that heads will roll if the bridge repairs miss the December deadline. Pressure is building on President Marcos to greenlight a bill that could transform digital access nationwide. 35 organizations are urging the president to sign the Konektadong Pinoy Bill, a landmark measure aimed at expanding affordable internet access across the country. Supporters say the bill will boost competition, lower costs, and bridge the digital divide, especially in the 19,000 barangays still without internet. They dismissed security concerns as unfounded, pointing out that the bill includes strict cybersecurity safeguards. It also bans foreign state-controlled entities from operating networks. Those who signed the joint statement include industry groups, tech organizations, and foreign chambers of commerce and industry. Chilean police take down a $13 million money laundering network tied to the Tren de Aragua gang. 52 people, mostly Venezuelan nationals, were arrested in a multi-region raid that uncovered cash, drugs, and digital assets tied to the criminal network.
Se le desarma y se le destruye.
Organized crime is attacked, disarmed, and destroyed by taking away its money and dismantling its financial structure. The individuals who commit crimes are replaceable to these networks, but their money is not, nor are their assets, nor are the financial structures and networks they use to get that money out of the country.
Thailand is now moving to recriminalize cannabis just 2 years after it delisted the drug as a narcotic and sparked a billion-dollar industry boom. A new order from the Thai Health Ministry will ban recreational cannabis sales and require a doctor's prescription for use. This leaves thousands of dispensaries, many of them small businesses, in legal limbo. The policy reversal comes amid a political shakeup, with the pro-cannabis Boom Jai Thai party exiting Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin's ruling coalition. Thavisin's government has criticized the lack of regulation in the industry and says it wants to protect the youth and public health. The shift could have big economic implications. Their cannabis sector, once projected to reach $1.2 billion by 2025, is now bracing for possible widespread closures and job losses. ABS-CBN President Carlo Caticbac says they're not pursuing a new congressional franchise, citing logistical barriers. He also cites their shift to producing digital content, forging partnerships, and expanding towards the international market. Caticbac adds it would be impractical to make such a move without the restoration of its frequencies, adding that most of them have already been reassigned. Meantime, he said that they will be moving to the smaller portion of their Quezon City compound by July 2026 after they sold the property to Ayala Land. All the proceeds from the sale of this property will be used to reduce their bank loans. Philippine shares rise for the third straight day after falling nearly 2% last Monday. The PSE index ended higher by nearly 0.1% to close at 63.30, finishing the day as the 9th best performer in Asia. The sectoral indices ended in the mixed territory, with property rising the most at more than 1%. Mining and oil, meanwhile, fall the most at more than 1%. Advancers outpaced decliners 94 to 76. Total value turnover reached 6.1 billion pesos. More than half of the day's most active stocks ended in the green, with Ayala Land rising the most at more than 4%. Meanwhile, the foreign exchange market, the peso is currently trading at 56.63 against the greenback, appreciating from the previous close of 56.71. And that's a wrap of today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again next week as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business, only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel.